This is the dance portion, ladies, where we just there we go. See, we think this. Oh, right. Well, I let this play a little bit because it takes a few minutes for people to kind of scroll into there. You see the numbers start going up. So we're just a little theme song intro as the masses join us. Looks like we've already got some questions coming in too. So thank you. Already, everybody is so very excited to see. We'll get going here in just a minute. Reminder to everyone, tonight's webinar brought to you by NoCD. NoCD, a downloadable app that you can get on Google Play or iOS. Feel free to also reach out to us at ocd.com, treatmyocd.com. NoCD offers teletherapy across the United States, and we are now in the UK and Canada and Australia as well too. So if you're looking for help, we are there to try to help you as much as possible, providing you with exposure and response prevention for OCD. As a reminder, tonight's webinar is information only. This is not therapy. However, we may give you some recommendations that seeking out a therapist could be very helpful for certain types of situations, but the advice we give tonight is not therapy. As you can see, I've got some guests with me tonight, and let me just tell you how excited I am to have my guests with me. It's always so fun to have some other folks. So, Mally, I combined your names, Mally. I'm just going to call you two Mally for now. Molly and Alex, or Mally, as we can now call both of you. You want to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about you and why you're here and what this Not Alone Notes thing appears to be next to your name there as well too. Love to have you tell us all about everything and what's going on. So go ahead.
All right. So I'm Molly, Molly Fishbeck. What do I say about myself? There's a lot of information. I am a co-founder of Not Alone Notes, as you can see below. And it's a nonprofit. We send notes to others with OCD to remind them that they aren't alone. We also send notes to family members of those with OCD, and we recently started sending notes in Spanish, which Alex is one of the people that allowed that to happen. And then behind advocacy stuff, I'm a teacher, and I like art. I'll pass it on to Alex.
Awesome.
Yeah, my name's Alex. I joined the Not Alone Notes team this year as a writer, and I've been sending out some cards this past year and also helped starting to send out the Spanish notes. I also just graduated with my master's in social work, so I'm going to start up a job as a school therapist in a few weeks.
Man, that's exciting. Wonderful. Well, great to hear. Well, tell us about Not Alone Notes and the work that the two of you are doing. In English and Espanol, please.
Yeah, so our other co-founder, Morgan Rondinelli, couldn't be here with us tonight, but
Morgan not be here, by the way. I just want to, Morgan, if you're watching this, because you're not here, we're very disappointed in you.
So she started Not Alone Notes in her college dorm room, just thinking of a way that she can connect to other people with OCD. She was already an advocate with like a blog that she wrote about her experience. And then she met people at the conference and wanted a way to stay in touch. So she decided to send notes because it was like the easiest, like everyone likes snail mail. Like, I feel like it's fun to get mail in like the actual mail besides bills.
It's like a pot of gold at the rainbow is what that's like. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah. And so, so she started, Not Alone Notes, and she would use just like blank like postcards and handwrite every note. And then I was a follower and a fan of hers on Twitter and reached out to her. I slid into her
I heard
DMs.
you were a stalker, honestly. Well, yeah. But that's
yeah, I stalked her because she looks like me. We thought we were related.
True. Yeah.
And then I said, like, I'm an artist. I can make the cards for you. And so I sent her a bunch. And then we got like, I was like, I could also help with marketing. I majored in marketing. And so like we started Instagram and like helped her like build, like together we build this project. Like it just started off as like a little project that's like, now we've sent over 1,500 notes, and we have a team of like, and all over the world too. And everyone on our team, we have a team of 25 writers. and everyone on our team hand makes the cards and hand writes the cards as well. So it's all really personalized. We ask like your favorite color, so you get your like the card your favorite color. And yeah, did I forget anything, Alex? I don't. I've told that story so many times, but like usually I forget
Yeah,
things.
I think you did a good job of covering its origins. I met Morgan and Molly last year in 2020 at OCD Game Changers in Denver, like right before the world shut down, and just thought their mission was super cool. And just having my own experience of knowing how isolating it can be to get an OCD diagnosis. Like I personally didn't know anyone with OCD when I first received that diagnosis, so that really made me want to join the team and help others know that they're not alone and offer resources and connect them to really good treatment.
Yeah. You know, one of the oh, go ahead, please.
Oh no, sorry. It's easy to come on here now and talk about having OCD. But like when I first met Morgan, I was like really private and didn't like the idea of if you search my name, finding OCD. But now like that's the first thing that comes up when you search my name. So like it's definitely, and I've had it. I was diagnosed. I can say when I was diagnosed. I've had it since I was like 3, but diagnosed when I was 11, and didn't get proper treatment until 25, I think. And so yeah, and I was like really private and didn't know anyone with OCD either. I went to even like an anxiety support group in my really small college, and no one said they had OCD. So I was just like, okay, I'll be alone forever. Except for like the random people online that I stalked, but
Yeah.
no. So yeah, it was like finding a community and building community was really special for someone who just was shy and didn't know anyone as well.
Yeah. That's one of the things I've loved about NoCD is helping people build that community and feel like they're not alone. You can get on the app and literally meet thousands of people who even share your subtype of OCD as well. So that's always exciting. Good. Well, we always get questions here. And how would people, though, first contact you if they wanted to find out more about Not Alone Notes and maybe be a part of it or help with writing or receive a note? What would one do?
Yeah, so we have a website. It's just notalonenotes.org. We also have an Instagram and a Facebook page. You can find us there. We also have written a an exposure coloring book called Color Your Fears. You can find that on Amazon. Yeah, it's like a fun way to do exposures.
Yeah, I bet.
I just posted one on Instagram. It's pretty terrifying. Go check it out.
Okay. All right. So I put those in the chat too for everyone to be able
Thanks.
to kind of go to and reach out. So if it's okay with you, we're going to kind of intersperse some discussions with you guys about your OCD and your treatment and how you feel about talking now more openly about OCD and what advice you have. But we'll intersperse some of the questions from the audience too tonight, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Megan says, what advice do you have to help someone from doing mental compulsion, specifically going over details and bringing up things that scare you to see if it still scares you? I've been doing so well with my OCD, but today I did a compulsion that I wish I didn't do. And now OCD is screaming at me saying, you did what we wanted, and now nothing is off limits. Any advice on that? Or any advice on how to respond to the fear the best way? Sorry for asking 2 questions. Thank you for all of that. Does that ring a bell for either of you, kind of about your own experience with OCD and what you've had to deal with?
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of compassion for people who struggle with mental compulsions because I think they can be some of the hardest to kind of nip in the bud. And definitely took a lot longer, and I still struggle occasionally with mental compulsions, and it takes me a while to kind of catch myself and realize that's what's going on because it's so subtle and nobody can see that you're doing it, obviously. So first, I mean, I would say like to be kind to yourself and not beat yourself up over the fact that it happened. Like compulsions happen and it's not going to completely derail your treatment. I mean, I would just say to kind of go back to mindfulness, like what can you do to get back into the present moment? What value-driven activities can you redirect yourself towards? But it's going to take a while to realize that you're doing mental compulsions, but maybe you can identify some of like the triggers that lead up to it. I don't know. What do you think, Molly?
I think that was a good answer. It kind of reminded me of me in that when I was in treatment, I was like putting a lot of pressure on myself to be perfect with my treatment. So like saying that you messed up because you weren't doing like treatment 100% like relates to me in that way. So like I agree with you. Just like beating yourself up will just make things worse, and that like it's almost like maybe reassurance saying that like, hey, 100% of the time you can't be perfect.
Yeah. And Megan, I like what you said there, and I think it's an important thing to discuss, this notion of OCD will want to bring up things in the past that bothered you to see if they bother you now, and then be angry at you if they don't bother you like they did before. Almost as if that means now, because it doesn't bother you the way that it did when your OCD was raging, it must mean that you like that or that you're okay with that thing, right?
Yeah.
I am personally not okay with murdering anyone. It's not on my radar to do at all. But thinking about murder doesn't mean that I beat myself up over murder, because I don't have OCD, so I can recognize it as just a thought that pops into my head. But if you have harm OCD and then you think about murder and you don't say to yourself, well, murder would be the worst thing ever in the world and I would never want to do it, and I'll do anything that I can to protect myself from ever happening because I don't want it to happen. I don't want everyone to ever think that I would ever murder anyone, because then what would it be like if anyone thought that I might be a murderer? And that would be awful and horrible. And I don't want anyone to ever do that. So I'm going to do everything I can to prevent murder and prevent anyone thinking that I'm ever a murderer, because I have to make sure that no murder would ever happen. If that's not your answer, then OC is going to say, maybe you do like murder, right?
Yeah, caught you.
Yeah. Now, did that sound familiar to the two of you? Have you had those kind of conversations in your head with yourself like that? Yeah.
Oh, totally. No, I
Yeah.
totally have. One of my stickiest themes was around suicide and the fear that I would want to kill myself. And so that spiked extreme anxiety for a really long time. And then once I started going through ERP and actually getting better, I realized that some of the things that used to trigger me, like, you know, walking across a bridge or being near train tracks, didn't trigger me as much. And then I would have kind of that backdoor spike of like, wait, does that mean that I want to kill myself now? Like, what does that mean? And then it would start to spiral again. And so OCD can definitely do that. And it sucks.
Yeah. You know, I've often talked about the idea that if a question starts with the words "what if," we're already in trouble, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't give a satisfying answer to a what if question, right? Because OCD knows that what if has a cousin. And do you guys know who what if's cousin is?
Doubt.
I don't know.
What if's cousin is yeah, but what if?
Oh,
right?
Yeah,
So you could ask me a what if question. Yeah, you could ask me a what if question. I'll give you a very logical answer, and you'll go, yeah, but what if, to the next thing, right? And you're always going to have one more yeah, but what if than I'm going to have an answer for.
Yeah.
That's why talk therapy is a waste of time for OCD, because all we would do is go back and forth with your what ifs. And I'd keep trying to give you a logical answer, hoping, this time when you hear it, it's now the 78th time I've told it to you. But this time when you hear it, you're finally going to get it. It's going to make sense, and it's going to change your life.
Yeah, no, I was in talk therapy when my OCD started to come on, and my therapist didn't recognize it at the time. So we spent so much time trying to parse out the meaning of my thoughts. And because I was stuck on the suicide stuff and a lot of existential questions, which can seem quite important in a different context, you know? And so we'd go back and forth so much about like actually trying to figure out what makes my life meaningful and what is preventing me from wanting to kill myself. And it was just so harmful and really exacerbated all my compulsions.
Yeah. It, when I had Alec Pollard on here once, he was my supervisor for my postdoc. Do you guys know Alec at all from St. Louis?
I mean, I know who he is, but I don't think I've met him.
Go. I trained under Alex, so it was really fun to work with him. But, when he was on one time, we talked about the fact that no one with OCD has ever been given an answer that satisfied their OCD, and their OCD answered with, "Oh yeah, we're good now, thanks. That was great."
Yeah.
all's well. All's well. You don't have to worry about me anymore. I'm now satisfied with that answer, and I'm just going to go away. That has never happened, right? It is never going to happen because that's not the way OCD works. You don't convince someone with OCD that you have I talk about the idea that OCD's nickname is the doubting disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And though it demands certainty, it will never accept certainty.
Yes, definitely.
So we have to live. We have to live with that doubt and uncertainty. So,
yeah.
How did you guys deal with finally accepting uncertainty? What was that experience finally like for the two of you? I think it's so great for our listeners to hear people who have been able to do that. And though there will still be times that you struggle, no doubt. I mean, we never talk about a cure with OCD. We talk about I figured out how to live with it, and yeah, it tries to rear its ugly head once in a while, but I've got skills to be able to manage that. So, how have you accepted uncertainty in your life more now than you did before treatment for OCD?
I'm thinking. Because it is, like, when you first said that, I was like, oh, yeah, it's something I still struggle with, even though...
Sure it is. Sure.
Yeah, so...
But is it better having gone through treatment than it was before?
I think, like, the repetition of ERP just, like, really helps, and you can, like, catch yourself in the way that you think. So I feel like ERP is just, like, a practice that you get used to, and, like, an exercise that helps you train your brain in a way that, like, catches you in certain things, and, like, helps, I feel like, also just, like, helps you be mindful of your thoughts in a way that, like, you're more aware of what comes to your brain now. Like, I can catch it before I start obsessing about it for as long as I would have before. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, I think the turning point for me was kind of realizing, like, that I never would get an answer to a lot of these questions, and that in the meantime it was impacting my life in such a big way. I was talking to my therapist about, okay, like, let's say go down the line towards the end of your life. You're at the end of your life and you're on your deathbed and you still don't know the answer to the meaning of life. Would you rather have lived your whole life in the meantime having obsessed and tried to figure it out and made your life that much smaller? Because I could see how small my life was getting from OCD. Or would you rather have pursued your life and done the things you wanted to do? Because either way, you're going to get to your deathbed and still not know the answer. And when she said that, I was like, oh my God, she's right. I don't think I am ever going to get the answer.
Yeah.
So I try to think about, like, the impact on my day to day, and that kind of helps put in perspective for me.
I've said to people something along the lines of, and I can't remember where I read this once, but would you like to spend the rest of your life sitting next to your tombstone wondering when you'll be 6 feet under it? Or would you like to spend the rest of your life having a great time showing up on the day of your death at your tombstone with, a martini in one hand, wearing a bow and going, damn, that was fun, and
that's kind of
right.
Yeah.
Doesn't that sound better? Right. But, to quote Shawshank Redemption, one of my favorite movies of all time, do we get busy living or do we get busy dying? Right. And there's a lot of people who are stuck on that get busy dying kind of experience, meaning they're stuck on regret and shame and guilt and rumination and reassurance seeking and distraction and avoidance and compulsions and substance use. And they're not really living their life because they're afraid, what if I do something wrong, or what if something goes wrong in those situations? And it's those what if speed bumps that just get in the way of traveling down the road of life. And we want people to recognize that, hey, sometimes a speed bump is a roller coaster. You just take it at 90 miles an hour, fly through the air and be like, woohoo, here we go. And then when you land and you realize you're still driving, that's great, right? That's great.
Yeah.
And then to go off of that, like, I do feel like I learned this in treatment, but also it's talked about pretty often, but, like, looking at your values, because it could be like, well, I'm so stuck in my OCD that I don't know what I care about or don't know what's important to me. But even if it's something like art and, like, picking up a pencil, like, a couple times a day or once a day, and just trying to, like, separate yourself from OCD into, like, what do you value, what do you find fun, and making sure you spend time with that at least once a day, a couple times a week, whatever you can start with.
Yeah. Heck, that's important, even if you don't have OCD, to do that
That
kind
is
of thing,
true.
right? I mean, everybody ought to be doing something like that every day, just to spend a little me time and doing something that feels good to you, not just in the service of, work or relationships, but to do things to make yourself better. I fun quick story. I had a patient say to me once after unloading a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, this is back when I worked at a hospital, and I spent a couple hours in the intensive program with him. And he said, I'm so sorry I told you all that, and I know you're going home now, and you're probably going to think of that all night long. And I looked at him and said, no, I'm not actually. I won't think of you once I leave here. And he was offended. He's like, how dare you? And I said, listen, I need to go home and take care of me now so that I can come back tomorrow and be refreshed enough to take care of you. If I go home tonight and I just think about everything you just told me, I'm not going to eat well. I'm not going to work out. I'm not going to get any good sleep. I'm going to toss and turn. And then I'm going to come back tomorrow. I'm going to be more tired and aggravated and agitated. And I'm just not going to give you the service that you deserve tomorrow. So I need to disengage once I leave here tonight and go take care of myself so that I'm going to be really good to take care of you.
The secret rule of behind every therapist.
Yeah, and that can be really difficult, especially for new therapists or people who haven't treated, say, OCD with ERP before. There are even therapists who sometimes feel bad, because they think, oh, I feel so bad, I'm exposing them to these difficult things. Well, don't feel bad. You're doing evidence-based treatment. You're actually being more helpful than any therapist who tried to teach them diaphragmatic breathing and muscle relaxation and which you guys have probably been taught. And did it help you, right? Did it stop? No, it didn't stop. Your OCD was like, please, more diaphragmatic breathing, please, more muscle relaxation, more. This is wonderful. And please tell me I'm going to be fine and okay throughout every session we have, right? And yeah, it ultimately doesn't serve you the best way that you need to be served.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Kristen says, my boyfriend decided we should take a break from our relationship while I work on my mental health. We're still in contact, but the break is indefinite. The anxiety feels unbearable at times and is severely affecting my ability to function in my daily life. Do you have any advice for working through relationship OCD in this situation? I'd say a couple of things I'll throw in, but I'd like to hear if our OCD has affected either of you as well. That notion of OCD, of course, is trying to figure everything out. And while OCD attempts to figure things out, it never comes up with an answer, actually. It comes up with a lot more questions, but it doesn't actually come up with an answer to anything. So the hardest part in this situation, Kristen, might be that your OCD has convinced you, if you just think harder about all these things and try to figure out anything that you can about how to make your relationship better, and that you're going to come up with an answer. And the real goal, to me, is to be okay with the fact that, you know what, I'll never know if this is the perfect relationship. I'll never fully know if we're attracted to each other enough, if we'll love each other enough, if we'll be romantic enough, if we'll be good enough partners. But for now, things seem to be going well, and I'm going to go with it, right? And that can be so very hard for people. OCD loves the notion of the soulmate. It's a thing. It's the thing of fairy tales. I don't think it exists in the world, but boy, OCD sure believes that it does, and you better darn well find it. Though there are over 8 billion people on the planet, there's only one person in this entire world for you, and you need to find them. And so you better get going and looking for that person. Right?
No pressure.
Yeah, the media definitely does us a disservice in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely struggled with ROCD in the past with a past partner, especially when I was just going through the beginnings of treatment, and my OCD hopped around to a ton of different themes and definitely fixated on our relationship. I had to figure out what were the compulsions that were associated. So for me, it was a lot of reassurance seeking from my partner, asking questions over and over again. Are you mad at me? Do you love me? Do you still want to be with me? That kind of thing. And then a lot of Googling, a lot of mental reviewing. So maybe look and try and figure out what your compulsions are and see if you can cut some of those out, or even just delaying. That's something I worked on a lot with my therapist at the time.
Yeah.
So sometimes the questions would feel really urgent and I felt like I'd have to ask him immediately. But if I wrote them down on a note in my phone and then gave myself a certain time frame, like I'm going to wait 24 hours. And if this question still feels relevant and not related to OCD, because right in the moment I couldn't really tell if it was like an OCD question or an actual question that was pertinent to the relationship. Like once I have some distance from the situation, I can kind of figure it out better. And usually if it was like an OCD related question, that the urge or the anxiety around it would diminish and I wouldn't have the need after like a day.
Sure.
So yeah. Is that something that's come up for you at all, Molly, in any way? Or?
Yeah, I would say that's like
Molly's like, this is my life on film right now. Is that what we're doing?
yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the themes that I should work on, honestly.
It's not
but
I mean, none
too real.
This just turned into a group therapy session all of a sudden, live on camera.
Like, yeah, I mean, I guess like I'm not in the relationship anymore, and it was like a combination of things, but OCD was definitely like bothered me. I did a lot of mental compulsions, and like even the slightest like, oh, is that emoji like mean something, or like that smiley, like that specific smile emoji that was sent, like what does that mean? Like, so it wasn't as much outward, I guess, reassurance checking, but more like mental and like checking. And I guess like one thing I did was write a script and recorded it like my therapist, and then would listen to it, and that was helpful, like hearing yourself saying like maybe this person isn't the perfect partner for me, and just like a whole script about that. But yeah, I relate to you, and I was also in treatment while dating someone, and it was tough, so
Sure.
I feel you.
Well, and you know, a great use of the NoCD app. You don't have to be in NoCD teletherapy to use the tools on the NoCD app. And we've got a place to put scripts. We've got a loop tape function on there. So there's a lot of that built into the app for people if you download it. So go to nocd.com or treatmyocd.com. NoCD available on iOS or Google Play. And we have teletherapy across the United States. And we continue to get more and more insurance companies that cover our therapy as well, too. And we're available in the United States, Canada, the UK, and Australia. So I have some great guests with me tonight from Not Alone Notes. We've got, I called them Mally earlier just to combine the two of them into one, but sorry again about that. Molly and Alex are here, and we're chatting about living with OCD, the work that they've done. And can you guys tell us a little bit, like, what's some of the feedback people have given about Not Alone Notes, and how do they feel when they get that in the mail? And some of the, I love to hear some of those feel-good stories that you might have. So.
Yeah, we don't always get responses, and we like of course don't ask for like if you got your note, because it's meant to be like a personal thing. But when we do, we always ask like who wrote your note, because we have 25 writers, so we want to make sure that they get credit and know that their note got to the person, especially because it's like it makes me feel good, like your art, your hard work like got there and made the day. Some of our favorites are when kids are holding up their notes. Like it's the best seeing their faces and just like excited about getting a note. And then even adults too, of course, like we love to see like the face with the person with the note, but you of course don't have to send us that because it's obviously personal. So even just like a hey, I got your note is like the best, just because we set like honestly like we just send a note into the world, like we don't know if it's going to get there, we just trust the postal service that it will make it there. They're all over the world, so you never know. And we have a PO box, so like if a note does bounce back, then like we'll get it, but and try to like contact you. But yeah, it's the best hearing. Like I wish I could quote someone, but like it's just they're all so amazing. I don't
Yeah. Well, I know working at, the intensive program at the hospital and the residential, it was great. People appreciated getting those notes around the holidays even. And it was so nice to have people feel that they were being paid attention to and thought about, even if they didn't know the person, that it was just good to know there was someone out there in the world that was thinking about them.
Definitely. And then it makes you also feel less alone knowing that we've sent over 1,500 notes. So
Yeah.
like that alone tells you that there's other people out there. Like,
Wait, they weren't just to one person? They were to different is that what you're saying?
1,500 notes to that one, just you,
Yeah.
that one person watching.
Yeah.
I got one.
That mail carrier hates that person, by the way.
The big mailbox.
Hack Nicholas, who great name, by the way, for golfer enthusiasts out there. You folks are willing to go live for us. I'm barely willing to go play golf during an OCD episode. What do you recommend to break down the barrier OCD builds between you and your hobbies? Great question. How did you two do that? I mean, obviously OCD can get in the way of the notes that you write and things too. So how do you in an OCD episode work through the fact that, hey, am I going to do something today in service of OCD, or am I going to do something in service of getting rid of OCD?
Well, I think one thing is breaking it into steps. Like if you're going out there thinking that you're going to go play like however many holes a golf thing course normally has.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I don't know enough about golf.
9 or 18, depending.
So like starting off by maybe like doing some like putting in your backyard, or like going knowing that you're gonna do like 3 holes and then like turning around. Like you can tell yourself you're gonna turn around and then see how it goes. So that's what I would recommend. Like even if it's stressful to like hold a golf ball, then like start with that. But I feel like even just like putting in your backyard or finding a place to just like start small. You can break it into smaller steps. I'm trying to think what else I've done. One thing that is maybe not the best, but like sometimes I'll do, if it's for fun, like and if you're alone, like just like going, and also that's another thing, like going and just driving there. And if you're not like willing to even play, then just turning around and going back. But driving there and getting there might motivate you to try it out. Like a lot of the times, like with art, I would get perfectionistic and I would just be like, it's not even worth trying because it's going to come out bad, or it's not going to come out the way I wanted it. So forcing yourself to get started is a suggestion.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, because I've definitely been there where I'm like in a really bad spiral in my head and just want to cancel on my friends or something like that. But maybe I'll give myself a small step, like, well, maybe I'll go for 30 minutes and I can go home if I still don't feel like staying. But I also think reminding yourself of like, well, how did I feel the last time I did it? Because usually you feel better when you're doing your hobbies or things that you care about rather than worse afterwards. So you might be surprised by how you feel. And I feel like this applies to not just OCD too, but like anxiety, depression, like any other issues you're going through. It's like, just take the step anyways.
Yeah.
When I was in treatment, one thing, like after I would do it, like a really tough exposure, I would feel like so good after the fact. I would have all this anticipatory anxiety, which like all in all didn't feel like it was worth it beforehand. And then once I did it, I felt so good. And like also it's something that you enjoy. So like, you know, you'll get a little bit out of it, hopefully. So yeah,
That's great. Lisa says, any contamination I can do. I have a nephew coming in a few months, and I feel like it's going to get worse. So any ideas for contamination, OCD, or ERP? I have a few recommendations. Throw some Cheetos around the house and leave them there for a few days. That's always a good one. Stick your fingers in your mouth and touch everything in your house. That might be a good one to do as well too. Scratch yourself anywhere you possibly can and then touch everything you own. It could be another one. I'm just thinking of little boys. I'll tell you, I got the funniest 2 little boys that live 2 doors down, and we had a little neighborhood barbecue, and they showed up, and it was like a tornado in my house. They found the Lifesaver roll, and they were literally eating it out of just the package, and then Lifesavers were sticky and flying all over the house, and it was like, holy moly.
Yeah.
And I felt how overwhelming that was, and I don't have OCD, so I can only imagine if someone had OCD contamination, it would be like, they would want to flip out. So have you two dealt with any contamination issues in ways that you've kind of prepared yourself or done any kind of ERP toward that?
I haven't dealt with this theme, but
Okay.
I know it's super common.
I don't even know what category of metaphobia like is under.
Oh, we could talk
Would
about
you
that a
con-
little bit.
Okay, yeah.
You
So
want to tell people what a
I-
metaphobia is if they don't know?
It's the fear of throwing up, which of course like everyone doesn't like throwing up, but it's like to the extreme of like your OCD latches onto it and like takes it to as far as it can take it.
Yeah. As in, if I start throwing up, I will never stop throwing up. I'll spend the rest of my life throwing up, and it will be awful and horrible. Kind of
And
thing, yeah.
like the simplest little things, like me tapping this means I'm gonna throw. Like tapping my like throat upwards means that it's gonna increase my chances of throwing up. So I like that was like the main theme that I focused on when I was in treatment, and like I'm always in treatment, but I mean when I did a partial hospitalization program, which really helped, and so I did things like, well, I also have like social anxiety and like specifically attached to throwing up. I mean, and that was like a big thing for me, like someone hearing me throw up, someone seeing me throw up. So I would go around. Of course, this wasn't like the first thing I would do, but I also like needed to like start. And this is like just the best story to tell. I would go around. It was at McLean, so I'd go around the whole campus, pretending to throw up into garbage cans, but like.
Security, we've got another puker on campus. Security.
And so I started inside like the unit and like would just hold up trash cans, and I wouldn't do the noises. Sometimes the counselors would like make the noises for me.
Sure.
But I would like also I thought that breathing in garbage can germs would increase my chances of throwing up, because that's how like germs are spread.
Of course, the garbage can germs, some of the worst germs in the world, by the way. Yes, you have to.
Yeah.
I have a story to share with you after this, so remind me to tell you. Yeah, go ahead.
So I would go around and like either be holding it up where my head is all the way in, but then I realized that like I couldn't see the people that were staring at me. It was like avoidance. So then I had to like lift my eyes up so I can make eye contact with like everyone around me with my head in the garbage can. And then once I like ventured outside, people would stop me and be like, "What are you doing?" Which was like, of course, incredibly anxiety provoking for my social anxiety. And like some people were like, "That's they're from the OCDI." Like that's what I heard. Like people like from another unit like whispering at us. And then once there was a woman who worked on campus because she had like her lanyard. And she was like, "Is there an animal in the garbage can?" Because the garbage cans are the kind where you can just like, it's like a lid on top and the sides are open. So I'd lift up the whole entire thing. So it was like, you could really get in there, and I'd touch the sides and like.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know the smelliest garbage cans at the McLean campus, if you're wondering.
Always good to know. Yeah. You know, I won't give the names of everyone, but I was in a car driving one night with, you know the story?
Yeah.
So I'm in the back seat. Well, Chrissy was in the back seat with me because Chrissy, I have told this story live. I won't say who the other person was, but because I don't think he's revealed that part of it. But I was in the car with Chrissy, and in the front was someone who she thought had thrown up because he had said that he had thrown up. And so the window was open, and Chrissy feared that as he was breathing out, the vomit germs were flying into the back seat, and that she was breathing in the vomit germs, and that it would cause her. Now, she faked that she was being car sick and needed to pull over for a while and sit in the front seat. Well, we found out the next morning the person in the front didn't vomit. He actually had diarrhea, and that all of this was in Chrissy's head and didn't actually happen. But she had so convinced herself that she was breathing in vomit germs and it was going to lead her throw up. And she's so afraid of throwing up that it overwhelmed her. So this just gives you a great idea that it doesn't have to be true. You just have to think it's true. And that's enough for OCD, right?
And I also started off with like listening to throw up noises, looking at pictures of cartoon people throwing up, carrying around this picture
Someone
of a
puking.
man throwing
Nice.
up.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. You still have it
carry
with
it.
you. I love it.
Was that
Yeah,
on
it's
right
been
now,
like
or-
2 years, and I carry it in my cell phone case. Because that
Awesome.
will increase your chances of throwing up if you carry around a photo.
Of course it will. Oh,
of
sure. Yeah,
someone throwing
absolutely.
up.
We know that statistically, of course. Yeah.
Yes, that is scientifically proven.
Absolutely. Yes. Hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Awesome. Let's see what else we got. Cassie. Oh, hey, who works here at NoCD. She says, love that, Molly. Fun fact, I didn't throw up between the ages of 7 till 21. My younger self traumatized me so bad thinking I couldn't stop throwing up if I did, that I did whatever I could do not to throw up. So,
It's
yeah,
a powerful fear.
it's a very powerful fear, right?
I can't see everyone's comments, so sorry if you're talking to me and I can't see what you're saying.
There might be private comments and public comments. I don't know if you see that up on the top. I think that you can flip the switch there potentially if you can see them. If not, I'll read things to you though. I'll kind of go
Yeah,
through this.
it's okay. I'm just letting, if someone's saying something, I don't know. Well, maybe I won't know then.
All right, let's see. Baden says, I already have OCD and now I'm always ruminating. I don't want something like sexual attraction to my younger brother or any other blood relative of the opposite sex. Has anyone's OCD thoughts ever come true? Kind of along those lines. Would you please help me with advising what my ERP would be in this regard? I can't focus on my studies, though it's my exam time very soon. I'll say this, but I think you guys with lived experience, this is very important to hear from you as well, too. The moment you hope not to think of something is exactly the time you're going to think of it, right? I mean, it is as easy as if I tell you don't think of a pink elephant, then you are going to think of a pink elephant, right? Because the moment you hope not to, it is going to appear. How have you guys really worked on that for yourselves and dealt with that idea that, those ruminating kind of thoughts that are there? And what was it like to move away from hopefully trying to figure them out and give an answer to them to just accepting they're there and moving on from them and letting them go? Or you've never done it.
I guess like a recent like coping skill recently was like redirecting to something that you value. So like not distracting, but like purposely redirecting to something that's important to you, or something that you find fun. And like kind of what you said, like having to accept that you're always going to have thoughts in your head and you're not going to always like your thoughts. And it's also the same with people who don't have OCD.
Correct.
But ours just get stuck in a hamster wheel.
Yeah, I think, hoping that you won't have certain thoughts can be like kind of a recipe for disaster. It's kind of similar to, I've in the past been stuck on like, I don't want my thoughts to come up in this specific moment, like on an important day or on a holiday, because I don't want it to like ruin that holiday. Even as recently as a month ago, I was like, I really hope that these thoughts don't come up on graduation day because I want to have a good graduation day. And then of course, like the day before graduation, I'm stuck in this spiral.
Here we are.
Here it is. It's arrived. So I think just learning to change your relationship to like, you can still go about your life with these thoughts in your head. Like you can, like I walked across graduation stage, like my graduation stage, like wondering if I might kill myself on stage, and I did it anyways. And it was, I got through the day and it was fine. And like they didn't have to not be there for me to go about my day, even though it's really unpleasant and really uncomfortable. Like, you can do it.
And going back to what, sorry. No,
go, please. Go ahead.
I wanted to like clarify what I meant by redirecting. Like if you're at work and you get these thoughts in your head, like redirecting meaning focus on what you should be doing with work and letting the thoughts like be in the background. I keep on doing hand movements, but it's backwards. Let the thoughts be in the background. And like while you still continue to do like what you need to do.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, Molly. You know, there's a difference between distraction, which is, oh, I just had a bad thought. Now I need to watch a YouTube video of cats because that's so cute and it'll distract me, versus, oh, I just had a thought I don't like. I'm still going to walk across the stage at graduation, right? That is the redirection. Is doing what you would do anyway, even if the OCD wasn't there, and learning that you can do those things even if OCD is there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's so important. And, you know, I'll tell you from the therapist point of view, I've absorbed pretty much every intrusive thought anyone I've ever treated has ever had. So you two are lovely. Thank you for being here. But I promise you, if we were standing at the top of a staircase, I would contemplate throwing you both down the stairs. It would just happen. It's natural for me now. I don't believe. Yeah, I know you're both touched by the notion that I would do it, but I don't believe I would do it. I haven't ever done it, but I would think about it. It would be, and I have no guarantee that I won't, and you have no guarantee that I wouldn't either. And we're going to live with the fact that we don't have any guarantee about that kind of experience.
I mean, I might throw you down before you throw us down.
You might. If you do, I will throw up on the way down, though, just so you know. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, just as a little get back at you. Yeah, I will get back at you by Pew. So, yep. Let's see. Hello, Dr. McGrath and team. I've been having difficulty with feelings of not knowing where my decisions come from. Did I do that because of my OCD, myself, my partner, or because of a fear of judgment? Oh, that's good. So that's from Nikita. You know, what a great question, because here's one difference between people with and people without OCD. People without OCD don't wonder where their decisions come from, and people with OCD wonder very much where their decisions come from, right? One of the reading into things is a hallmark experience of obsessive compulsive disorder. This notion that I need to know why I made the decision that I did, where it came from, what does it say about me, who influenced me to make it, should I be angry at them for making me do it or influencing me that way? And then sometimes people that you're in your life don't even know why you're mad at them. Like, I don't even know what you're angry about, you know, because, well, OCD told me that I made this decision because you did this, and that if I hadn't done that, then it would have been this way, and blah, blah, blah. So did you two ever find kind of really having to just read into things more than anybody else ever did?
Every day.
Every day. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I feel like that's such a loaded question. I feel like my OCD, another like main theme is judgment and how I feel like others perceive me, and like I want to call it like social OCD theme. So I'm not quite sure. Are you able to post the question, because I forget
yes,
what
of course.
they said.
I'd be happy to.
I mean, I guess like you're never gonna know where your decisions come from, and like sitting with that. Is that kind
Well,
of...
I'd say this: if you have OCD, you're never going to find a satisfying answer to where your decisions came from. That's right off the bat. The moment you think it might be one thing, OCD is going to say, "But how do you really know that for sure?" So it's the rabbit hole of hell that people find themselves going down, right? How can I ever know 100% for sure why I've done anything I've done or made any decision I've made? And the reality is, you can't.
Okay, I have some words of wisdom.
Molly, with throwing out the wisdom.
Yes. To
There's
quote my
wisdom
therapist.
coming, everyone. Wisdom is coming. Everyone, pay attention. Wisdom.
I don't.
Okay.
Like, I already forgot the question, but like with with like worrying about judgments of others, or like making a decision and worrying that you did something wrong or bad, or like usually around decision making. If you do quick pick stick, like you quickly pick something and stick to it, then that's the way to go. And then you just carry on, and like maybe you made the wrong decision, maybe you didn't, maybe that person judged you based on the question that you asked. Maybe they didn't. Maybe I answered this question completely wrong. No one will ever know. I mean, I will never know. Everyone else can judge you however I want, however you want. But yeah.
And OCD judgment's always the worst case scenario judgment, right? I mean, it's, no one with OCD's ever come to my office and said, I'm really afraid everybody loves me and thinks I'm awesome. We've treated nobody for that, right?
Yeah.
That's just not a theme that we find ourselves worried about. So. Pro Artistry says, I want to share a success story. I'm signed up to help rehab inmates through a mentorship program. Due to my extreme harm OCD, giving me compassion for people who have harmed others. So that's awesome. Number one, do you guys find, I think it's great to talk about that idea of compassion. You having gone through OCD treatment, having experienced OCD, how does that resonate for you with that idea of compassion for people who are also suffering from things? I mean, I think number one, you've done a great job with Not Alone Notes is a great way to show compassion, right? I'll throw it off there, but how else have you found that you feel that level of compassion for people?
I think just finding other people with OCD is helpful, because when you have OCD, you're kind of stuck in your own head, in your own bubble, and your own thinking that you're the only person that has these specific thoughts. So meeting other people through, I get the NoCD app, or online conferences or Facebook groups, or Instagram, anywhere, helps to learn. I mean, it also just gives you compassion to help other people who are struggling with the same things as you, and you can connect that way. Of course, Not Alone Notes has helped with giving back and learning from other people, and yeah, I mean, helped me grow with my OCD journey as well. So it's a give and take kind of thing, helping others, they help me, vice versa. Get others involved, like Alex. What about you?
Yeah.
Do you think it relates to you being going the psychology route in college and your master's and everything?
Me or
you?
Yeah, no, I definitely think that was a big part of why I ended up going and getting a master's in social work, was just having gone through my own mental health struggles and suffering. And even though I haven't worked with that many clients with OCD, everyone's going through something challenging, and so I can definitely relate to the level of distress and suffering when I especially work with kids. And yeah, it reminds me of some of the stuff I've gone through, and just want to give them a big hug and make it better.
And also support groups help with that too.
Yeah,
just another way to get involved if you don't have as much of an opportunity as that incredible, that was an awesome project that you're getting involved with. I forget your name, but the person who just made that success story comment.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Even support groups are awesome because you can meet other people and work together to find even a way, just even helping someone find an exposure for them to do is cool.
Yeah. It's interesting that OCD is not compassionate, but people with OCD can become very compassionate, right? I mean, OCD is the bully in the brain. I've often said OCD doesn't care about you or your friends or your family or your relationship or your loved ones, or OCD cares about one thing, and that's the satisfaction of OCD. And there's one way to satisfy OCD, and that's to do compulsions, which means OCD only cares about you doing compulsions to feed it, and doesn't care if it ruins your day, prevents you from going on the family vacation, stops you from going out on a date, stops you from being intimate with someone, prevents you from expressing your beliefs or your religion or your faith or anything like that. OCD doesn't care about any of those things whatsoever. OCD only cares about you doing a compulsion so that it becomes satisfied. And yeah, if we could really get that message across to people that they've fallen for the trick of OCD. The trick of OCD is this: if you just do everything I'm telling you to do, you're going to feel great. I promise you. That's a lie. The real statement is OCD saying, if you just do everything I tell you to do, then I'll feel great.
Yeah. That's
right?
An important distinction.
It's a huge distinction, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's an absolutely huge distinction. You know, as you two look back now, you've been through treatment and everything. Was there a benefit at all of your OCD in your life, other than you've been through something and maybe you've developed a better sense of compassion than you might have ever had? But in and of itself, did the OCD enhance your life and make it better at all?
Yeah, I usually say no when people
Right.
ask me that.
Mm-hmm.
And like I can say like, oh yes, I've built this nonprofit. Oh yes, like I found a community with people. But I like to think that I would have found that anyway. Without OCD, I would have found like a separate community of hopefully not a different mental illness, but but yeah, like I really don't think there's much positive. What were you gonna say, Alex?
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking when it was at its worst, my world was so much smaller. I mean, it took so much away from me. It took me away from being present with my friends and my family, and I was afraid to do certain hobbies and certain things, and I couldn't complete school assignments, and you know, it was just take for OCD's sake. And so other than developing compassion, which I think has led me to this career that I'm excited about, but that's despite OCD, you know.
Mm-hmm. A few other quick questions as we're getting toward the end here. Some people asked if they're in OCD treatment, how do they become an OCD advocate? Feel free to reach out to us through the app, and we would be happy, or talk to your therapist. Your therapist can get you in contact with people who can help you become an advocate. And I like this one from Pro Artistry. We'll maybe make this our last one for tonight. How do you deal with success and positive results in treatment? It feels guilt-inducing.
That's a good one.
That's a great question. That's a really great question, actually.
I think celebrate. You have to celebrate the successes. They're so important.
Even if there's guilt?
That's probably your OCD.
There you go.
Making you feel guilty because it's realizing it's losing its power over you. But,
and it grasps at straws. It throws guilt and it throws shame and it throws whatever negative emotion at you it can to get you to do what it wants you to do and not what you want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. You're getting your life back. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Celebrate
that's awesome.
with your therapist, with your friends, whoever you want to talk to about it. You deserve it.
Tonight's webinar brought to you by NoCD. NoCD, a downloadable app that you can get on Google Play or iOS. NoCD available for teletherapy across the U.S., Canada, the U.K., and Australia. I want to thank my guests tonight, Molly and Alex. Could you lead us out again with what is Not Alone Notes and what you're doing and how people can get in contact with you? I put it in the chat, but tell us again how we can get in contact with you and take advantage of the work, or maybe even work with you guys as well, too.
Yeah, so we send notes to everyone, or everyone with OCD and related disorders, BFRBs as well, to remind you. We send a handwritten, handmade note to you to remind you that you aren't alone with your struggle with OCD. It's completely free. You can sign up at notalonenotes.org, or you can find us on Not Alone Notes on Facebook and Instagram. And we have an exposure coloring book. We have fun different, like right now we're doing a card contest that we're going to hand out at the IOCDF OCD walks. Like card design
awesome.
contest. Yeah, so like there's
OCD, the premier sponsor of the International OCD Foundation Walk this year, actually. So very exciting. Very exciting. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you can find fun things on our website, on our Instagram. Usually I feel like Instagram is where we have like all the updates, but you'll find fun things on the website too.
Awesome. Alex, anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I hope you request a card, or if you know people who want a card in Spanish or for caretakers.
Oh, I think that's important too, for caretakers. You know,
Yes.
sometimes those are the unsung heroes of people in the lives of OCD, where so many times they can be kind of forgotten in this whole experience. And so a shout out to all the caregivers there in the world, parents, partners, friends, family, anyone who's there to help OCD, and recognizing that sometimes helping someone with OCD means allowing them to sit in discomfort and be uncomfortable instead of giving them the reassurance that they potentially want to get at the time that they want to get it, right?
Yeah, and our caretaker notes are written by caretakers of those with OCD. So
wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, it has been a pleasure meeting with the two of you tonight. Thank you so much for joining me here on No CD. Our Paul Melia theme song coming back on, by the way, everyone. So how many other webinars have a theme song, by the way? That's pretty awesome, I would say. So we're happy to have had you with us here tonight at No CD on our weekly Wednesday night webinar that I do. We'll have continued guests coming in. We'll continue to answer your questions. So everyone, be nice to yourself. And remember, OCD doesn't care about you. So it's time for you to care about you. So Molly, Alex, or Mally, as you're both known, thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
thanks
We're
for
going to
having
sign
me.
off now, everyone.
Thank
You
for
two can
having
hang on
us.
for a second, and we're going to let everyone go. Have a good night, everybody.